Research process. The ordered set of activities focused on the systematic collection of information using accepted methods of analysis as a basis for drawing conclusions and making recommendations. Research process consists of series of actions or steps necessary to effectively carry out research and the desired sequencing of these steps. Steps in research process. Formulating the research problem, extensive literature survey, development of working hypothesis, preparing the research design, determining sample design, collecting the data, execution of the project, analysis of data, generalizations and interpretation, preparation of the report or thesis. So these are the steps in research process. Now one by one we will discuss about these steps in brief. Formulating the research problem. Two steps are involved in formulating a research problem. One, understanding the problem thoroughly, and second, rephrasing the same into meaningful terms from an analytical point of view. Discuss problem with your own colleagues or with having expertise in the subject. Researcher must at the same time examine all the available literature to get himself acquainted with the problem. Two types of literature: conceptual, concerning with concept, theories, and empirical, consists of studies made earlier. Two types of literature: conceptual, concerning with concept, theories, and empirical, consist of studies made earlier. Second, extensive literature survey. Once the problem is formulated, a brief summary of it should be written down. Extensive literature survey is done for writing the synopsis. For this purpose, abstracting and indexing journals and published and unpublished bibliographies are the first place to go. Academic journals, conference proceedings, government reports, books, etc. must be tapped depending on the problem. A good library is going to help researcher. Third is development of working hypothesis. Hypothesis is a tentative assumption made in order to draw out and test its logical and empirical consequences. Development of hypothesis involves following approaches: discussion with colleagues and experts about problem, its origin and objectives in seeking solutions, examination of data and records, review of similar studies in the area or the studies on similar problems, exploratory personal investigation which involves original field interviews. Fourth one is preparing a research design. The research design is the master plan specifying the methods and procedures for collecting and analyzing the needed information. The preparation of the research design appropriate for a particular research problem involves usually the consideration of the following. First, the means of obtaining the information. Second, the availability and skills of the researcher and his staff. Third, explanation of the way in which selected means of obtaining information will be organized. Fourth, the time available for research. Fifth, the cost factor relating to research. Fifth, determining sample design. A sample design is a definite plan determined before any data are actually collected for obtaining a sample from a given population. Samples can be either probability samples or non-probability samples. With probability samples, each element has a known probability of being included in the sample. But the non-probability sample does not allow researchers to determine this probability. Types of sampling. Deliberate sampling. It is a purposive or non-probability sampling. This sampling method involves purposive or deliberate selection of particular units of the universe or constituting a sample which represents the universe. Example: if a researcher wishes to secure data from, say, gasoline buyers, he may select a fixed number of petrol stations and may conduct interview on these stations. Simple random sampling. This type of sampling is known as chance sampling or probability sampling, where each and every item in the population has an equal chance of inclusion in the sample, and each one of the possible samples in case of finite universe has the same probability of being selected. For example, if we have to select a sample of 300 items from universe of 15,000 items, we put number on each item and conduct a lottery. There are different types of sampling which we are going to later. Number 6. Collecting the data. There are several ways of collecting the appropriate data, which differ considerably in context of money, cost, time, and other resources at the disposal of researchers. Primary data can be collected by following ways: by observation, through personal interview, through telephone interview, by mailing of questionnaires, through schedules. 7. Execution of the project. If the execution of the project proceeds on correct lines, the data to be collected would be adequate and dependable. If the survey is conducted by means of structured questionnaires, data can be readily machine processed. In such situation, questions as well as the possible answers may be coded. The steps should be taken to ensure that the survey is under statistical controls so that the collected information is in accordance with the predefined standard of accuracy. 8. Analysis of data. The analysis of data requires a number of closely related operations such as establishment of categories, the application of these categories to raw data through coding, tabulation, and then drawing statistical inferences. Coding. It is done through which categories of data are transformed into symbols that may be tabulated and counted. Editing. It is the procedure that improves the quality of data for coding. Tabulation. It is a part of technical procedure wherein the classified data are put in the form of tables. 9. Hypothesis of testing. After analyzing the data, researcher is in position to test the hypothesis, if any he had formulated earlier, applying various tests such as chi-square, t-test, f-test, etc. Hypothesis test will result in either accepting or rejecting the hypothesis. Generalizations and interpretation. If hypothesis is tested and upheld several times, it may be possible for researchers to arrive at generalization, that is, to build theory. The process of interpretation may quite often trigger off new questions, which in turn may lead to further researches. Preparation of report or the thesis. The layout of the report should be as follows: the preliminary pages, second, the main text, third, the end text. In its preliminary pages, report should carry title and date, followed by acknowledgements and foreword. Then there should be table of content, followed by list of tables and list of graphs and charts, if any, in the given report. The main text of the report have following parts: introduction, summary of findings, main report, conclusion. Third, at the end of the report, appendices should be enlisted in respect of all technical data, bibliography, etc.